Hello everyone, and welcome to Blossom Cottage, where I'm going to be showing you how to make some Turkish coffee, which is a very enjoyable drink if you know how to make it. Now, I've learnt how to make it by studying very hard at the feet of YouTube video manufacturers, and they have taught me many things about this mysterious art. Mainly this little number is quite important. It is your coffee pot. In Turkish I think it's called a cezve, or an ibrik. I believe it can be called an ibrik if you're like an Arab guy rather than a Turkish guy. You need this, and you need of course some Turkish coffee. But is that really the case? Do you really need Turkish coffee? More on that later. Some of you would have got some Turkish coffee and a cezve for a Christmas present. So I'm just going to try and guide you through the process in the hope that you can also enjoy this lovely experience of your own home-cooked Turkish coffee. First off, you need to put some water in your pot. Cold water, and I'll put it up to where the rim is, and I think the rim helps with the foaming process that we'll come to in a moment. Now, when the water is cold, before you do anything heat wise, you put in 1 heaped teaspoon of Turkish coffee, or to taste. Put in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 probably will come up here, probably not practical. Now, some sugar. You have to do it now whilst it's cold, because if you do it later you're going to stir up the sediment, or you're not going to get a distribution of sugar going through the coffee cup. And I think it's just the way they do it anyway. That's the way they like to do it. That heat that I've just put on now is much too high. I'm going to drop it very low, and I'm going to start stirring in the sugar and the coffee. Now, the coffee is very finely ground. If you go to a coffee shop, if they've got a grinder, they'll be able to do for you a Turkish grind. But what beans do you use? Good question. I think the Turkish coffee originated via Yemen, and I think whatever they use now is probably the same type of coffee bean. But you know, I thought coffee was invented by Walter Raleigh or something. Maybe it was, I don't know. I don't know how. I digress. I've now dissolved the coffee and the sugar into the slightly warming water in the cezve, in the pot, in the ibrik, in the anything else I can mispronounce. I think I'll call it a coffee pot now, then I won't feel so insecure every time I say the word. My experience is it takes, for this size pot, on the kind of very low heat that I use, it takes about 6 minutes for it to get to the next stage, which is when it froths up a bit. Back to our theoretical coffee shop. What do you do? Well, I've tried it at home without a coffee shop and without their much better grinders, using some Colombian beans, and they are very, very, very nice. I just stick them in my old DeLonghi here, give them quite a pounding, quite a bit of time, 3 long grinds, and have ended up with something like this, which is nowhere near as refined as the coffee, the Mehmet Efendi brand of coffee here, which is almost like cocoa. You won't really be able to see it, but its secret is its fine grind. And so in the coffee shop you ask for a Turkish grind, and no matter whether it's Kenyan, Colombian, Nicaraguan, it will come out hopefully in that light powdery, almost cocoa type of texture, which is essential in order to get the coffee dissolving into the water nicely, and perhaps has a lot to say about the frothing experience you get later at the next stage in the coffee production. Okay, controversy. Cardamoms. Do you have cardamoms in your Turkish coffee, madam? Do you? Or do you not like having cardamoms in your Turkish coffee? Some Turkish coffee comes with cardamom already ground into it. Some people use powdered cardamoms, ground cardamom powder. I quite like cardamoms. I'm undecided as to whether they should be whole or whether they should be bruised in order to, well, let things come out. The disadvantage of bruising them is you're going to end up with little gritty bits knocking around in your coffee cup, but that's not unusual with a Turkish coffee experience because there's a lot of sediment and stuff in there anyway, and you give it a bit of time to settle to the bottom and it does flavour it noticeably more, obviously, if it's broken. Anyway, in it goes. That's the cardamom dealt with. As I said, it's an optional extra. I like it because it gives it it rounds off the taste of what is quite a smooth coffee anyway. But even with the Colombian, I like to stick a cardamom in there. It combines with the sweetness. So perhaps if I wasn't having it with sugar, perhaps I wouldn't bother with the cardamom. There's some kind of interplay going on there between the three things. Now the coffee is just sitting here looking a little bit sorry for itself whilst we enter a quiet period of reflection. Now you can almost see hints round the side of the foaming that is an important part of every video I've seen about Turkish coffee. The two-stage pouring and the foaming seem to be very critical. Now I unfortunately don't feel entirely confident about how you're supposed to get the foam off the coffee and into the cup prior to putting the rest of the coffee in. It's a two-stage pour. But I don't know, maybe you should look at some YouTube videos yourself. Maybe you should invite some Turkish friends around. Probably the most sensible thing to do is to invite some Turkish friends around, or people from the Middle East. I mean, I was an Israeli guy who was once raving about it, and they did something, but there was something definitely different. I think he tried to do a grind with English coffee. He didn't have any finely ground coffee, and it didn't really work because it was very gritty, and it was a bit gritty. Okay. I bought the coffee before I bought one of these things, and I would do it in a saucepan, and this is why I couldn't understand what all the foaming was about. This makes it all make sense because it narrows at the top here. It allows it to froth up in a way that in a saucepan although I use smaller ones than this, I didn't have anything as small as that, and I couldn't make sense of it, and it said don't boil it, and I thought, well, how's it going to froth without boiling? How? But I found the answer, as I've already told you, by going on the internet. You see, you don't need real human beings anymore. I've told you about doing it with other beans. I've told you a bit about the cardamom, and now we're just here waiting. And I like this period in making the coffee with the appropriate radio background, perhaps a little bit of putting away of things, a little glance over my shoulder to see how things are going in the garden. Very nice. There's a little winter rose out there. I can think about things. I can get a bit bored. Right, okay. Now that is 6 minutes according to my clock, and it hasn't really come up quite as I've expected, so I'm going to cheat a bit and push the heat up. Otherwise we're all going to die of boredom, aren't we? So, now I'm going to cheat this a little bit by pushing the heat up. Come on everybody, come on you little foamy man, come foam me up, foamy, foamy, foamy. See, I think it's probably because I put too much water in, and I should have put it under that dent, under it slightly, which is what I did when I was first trying to make this video, which is why I'm so wired, because I've already had a coffee. I'm one ahead of you already. And it's still taking ages to foam. This is not really the foaming I'm thinking of. Come on, a little bit more foaming. Come on, baby, come on. Come on. Come on, baby, foam my fire. Oh. Ooh, ooh. Okay, this is a bit more like it, isn't it? Right, you can begin to see it foaming. So what we're going to do now, which is going to be very impossible, totally impossible for me to film, is... hang on there, hang on there, hang on in there, guys. Get my cup. Now, of course, Turkish cups, they're little diddy things, demi-tasses. Really nice. I don't have one, and I haven't bought anyone one for Christmas either. And no one bought me one for Christmas. Well, I'm guessing they haven't bought me one for Christmas. Okay, the foam has come up nicely here. Okay, and I'm going the wrong way. Scoop the foam off. Okay, a bit too much came out then, I think, but the idea is to scoop the foam off, and it's got a little kind of crema in there. Oh, is that what you call it? Crema. Put the thing back on the heat and wait for it to foam again without boiling, it says on the back here. Okay, so what's boiling mean? I don't know. I don't know what boiling means. Are they talking... Okay, that looks like it's sort of boiling and foaming, so let's go down a bit. There's a bit of activity on the surface, which I'm sure is what boiling is, isn't it? And pour this in without messing it up. Now, I have messed it up when I was getting the crema in. I didn't pour it through the lip end because I was panicking, because I don't normally make it whilst trying to do a video that is going to be half watchable. It's there in front of me. Now, it's hot. A very important feature of Turkish coffee, serve it hot. It's going to be a bit sweet. I put 1 teaspoon in, I think, didn't I? So I'm not going to suffer too much on this side. And let's try it. That is very good. The filter of that faffing around with the foam bit has ensured there's some surface foam here, and it just gives it a slight blanket, almost like a kind of a sweet or something, because of that slight powdery texture, as if it's the talc, the sugary talc off a Turkish delight, and the coffee comes through that, along with the cardamom and the sweetness and the roundness, and it's a fruity, sweet, not too sweet here, but I think they probably would take it sweeter than this if you just order one in a shop. The cardamom floating here, the heat coming off it. Sometimes I do have it with a glass of water, just to counteract that hint of powder. Most of the sediment's going to be at the bottom. You continue drinking, and of course towards the end you've got to be more careful than you would be with a normal coffee. You've got to think that these last few centimetres here, you've got to give it a bit clear, but you'll get a sense, you'll see the sediment coming up at you, and it won't kill you if you get a bit of it, but it will probably ruin the experience if you get a big mouthful of it. You've got to be careful with it. You're not going to stir anything in it. Don't put it in a liquidizer and fizz it up with carbonated water or anything like that, because that's going to make it a bit of an unpleasant experience. Just do it like this and enjoy. And if you don't enjoy, you can always take your Jezve to a jumble sale. All the best.
Bye.